Somewhere in a truck stop parking lot in Oklahoma, a driver scrolls through a load board on his phone and finds a run to Memphis paying $900 over the going rate. Good miles, light trailer, easy delivery window. He looks at it for about 3 seconds and keeps scrolling. All across America right now, drivers with decades behind the wheel are doing the exact same thing with the exact same handful of cities, turning down freight that pays more than some loads pay all week. However, this is not laziness and it is not fear. It is arithmetic, and today we are counting down the 10 cities losing that arithmetic in 2026. And number one is a city drivers have been refusing for 50 years, until in 2026 it finally put a dollar price on every single reason why. Quick word before the countdown. There are two maps of America. There is the official freight map, drawn up by brokers and shippers who will never haul the loads they price, where every city is just a zip code with a rate attached. And there is the driver's map, drawn at fuel islands and on Channel 19, where certain cities are circled in red. Some of those red circles are earned, backed by hard numbers on theft and tolls and lawsuits. A few are old reputations that have outlived the reality. We will be honest about which is which. Let's get rolling. Number 10. Atlanta, Georgia. Ask any driver what they think of when they hear Atlanta and you will get one word back: traffic. The interchange where Interstate 285 meets Interstate 85 on the north side of the city, the one everybody calls Spaghetti Junction, has been ranked the worst freight bottleneck in the entire country by the researchers who study truck GPS data for a living. Not one of the worst. The worst. Now understand what that costs a driver. Federal rules give a trucker a 14-hour working window each day, and once that clock starts, it never stops. Not for a wreck on the downtown connector, not for a thunderstorm, not for the 4 o'clock wall of brake lights that forms around the perimeter every single weekday. A driver who gets caught crawling through Atlanta at rush hour can burn 2 or 3 hours of that window covering 30 miles, and those hours come straight out of his paycheck. Stack on top of that a cargo theft problem that has been climbing across the Atlanta warehouse districts, with thieves working the truck stops along Interstate 20 and Interstate 75 where drivers stage overnight, and you get the modern verdict. Veterans have not blacklisted Atlanta completely. They have blacklisted Atlanta between 2 and 7 in the afternoon. They take morning appointments, they route around the perimeter when they can, and when a broker calls with a 4 p.m. delivery downtown, they let it ring. Traffic wastes a driver's time. This next city goes after his truck while he sleeps. Number 9. Oakland, California. On paper, Oakland should be a driver's friend. A major seaport, steady container freight, good rates. The reality at street level is different. Drivers hauling out of the port of Oakland tell the same stories over and over. Hours lost waiting in line at the terminal gates, and then, when the day finally ends, nowhere safe to shut down. Secure truck parking around the port is nearly non-existent, so drivers end up on industrial side streets in West Oakland, and that is where the trouble starts. Windows smashed for a CB radio or a dash camera, fuel siphoned out of the tanks overnight, $400 of diesel gone by sunrise, trailer door seals cut open just to see what is inside. Drivers describe sleeping in the bunk with one eye open, engine idling, waiting for daylight. Some refuse to take their mandatory 10-hour break anywhere inside the city limits at all, driving 45 minutes out to Tracy or Fairfield just to sleep, which burns hours and fuel that nobody reimburses. The old hands who still run Oakland have their rules. Never drop a loaded trailer in the city. Never fuel up after dark. Get loaded, get on Interstate 580, and do not stop until the refineries are in the mirror. The port pays, but the drivers who take that money treat every minute parked in Oakland like money left on a park bench. And if Oakland makes drivers nervous after dark, the next city on this list has been scaring them on the radio for 50 years. Number 8. St. Louis, Missouri. Every trade has its ghost stories, and trucking's oldest one lives at the spot where Interstate 70, Interstate 55, and Interstate 64 all cross the Mississippi River. For generations, the warning has been passed down driver to driver on the CB, usually to some rookie heading east for the first time. Do not stop in East St. Louis. Do not fuel there. Do not park there. And if you can help it, do not even catch a red light there. The stories behind the warning are real enough. Drivers robbed at fuel islands while the pump was still running. Trucks broken into within minutes of the driver walking inside to pay. Late-night carjackings within sight of the Gateway Arch across the water. Veteran drivers plan their whole day around that river crossing, fueling in Effingham or Warrenton so the tanks are full, timing the run so they hit the metro area in daylight and come out the other side without the air brakes ever hissing. Now, for the honest part. The crime statistics on both sides of the river are genuinely rough, among the worst in the nation. But parts of that reputation were earned in the 80s and 90s, and there are drivers who run St. Louis every week without incident by simply knowing which exits are which. The red circle on the driver's map is bigger than the actual danger zone. But no driver ever went broke being careful, and the ones with 3 million miles will tell you the warning survives because it keeps working. St. Louis threatens a driver with what might happen. The next city stages the accident on purpose. Number 7. Miami, Florida. There is a scam running on the highways of South Florida that every safety department in America now trains its drivers to expect. It is called the swoop and squat. One car pulls alongside a loaded tractor trailer on Interstate 95 and boxes it in. A second car swoops in front and slams on the brakes, forcing a collision that no truck on earth could avoid. Then come the passengers, sometimes 4 or 5 of them, all suddenly clutching their necks, all with the same lawyer's phone number, all part of an organized insurance fraud ring that picked that truck because a big carrier's insurance policy is the deepest pocket on the road. Miami has been a capital of staged accident fraud for years, and drivers know that one bad afternoon there can put a fraudulent injury claim on their record that follows them for the rest of their career. Add the cargo side, where South Florida theft crews hit electronics loads and even trailers full of produce, moving stolen freight into resale channels so fast that recovery is nearly hopeless, and the picture fills in. The drivers who still run Miami have adapted like soldiers. Forward and side-facing dash cameras on every truck because footage is the only witness a fraud ring cannot buy. Extra following distance, never the center lane, never trust a car that matches your speed. The cameras have quietly saved hundreds of drivers from ruin. Down in Miami, criminals crash into the truck. In the next city, they never touch the truck at all. They just take the whole load with paperwork. Number 6. Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. For most of trucking history, stealing a load meant bolt cutters and a stolen tractor in the middle of the night. In Dallas, the theft went white-collar. The scheme is called strategic theft, and it works like this. A criminal crew steals the identity of a legitimate trucking company, its federal motor carrier number, its insurance certificate, sometimes even cloned logos on the door of the truck. They book a real load from a real broker, show up at the warehouse looking completely legitimate, get loaded by forklift drivers who check their fake paperwork and drive away in broad daylight. By the time anyone realizes the load never arrived, the freight has been cross-docked twice and the phone numbers are dead. In 2025, California and Texas together accounted for more than half of all recorded cargo theft in the United States, with Dallas and Houston lighting up the maps, and thefts nationwide ran at about 7 incidents every single day. Honest drivers hate this one more than any other city problem on this list, because when a load vanishes into a fraudulent pickup, suspicion lands first on every real driver who touched that dock. Owner-operators now get grilled at shipping offices like criminals, photographed, fingerprinted at some facilities, all because the thieves learned to dress exactly like them. If you are enjoying this ride through the driver's map of America, hit subscribe. This channel digs into trucking, highways, and blue-collar life every single week. Now, number 5. The city where the danger is not on the street at all. It is inside the courthouse. Number 5. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Ask a trucking company owner which city keeps him awake at night, and the answer might surprise you, because it has nothing to do with theft. Philadelphia's civil courts have become famous across the industry for what insurers call nuclear verdicts. Jury awards against trucking companies that blow past $10 million, sometimes past $100 million, for accidents that in another county would have settled for a fraction of that. Plaintiff attorneys know it. which is why billboards with trucking injury hotlines line the interstates into the city, and why lawsuits get filed in Philadelphia courts even when the wreck happened somewhere else entirely. Every one of those verdicts flows downhill into insurance premiums, and insurance is now one of the biggest bills a small carrier pays. There are owner-operators paying more each year to insure one truck than the truck itself cost 20 years ago, so carriers respond the only way they can. Some quietly refuse freight into the Philadelphia metro. Others take it but route their newest trucks and their cleanest driving records into the city, because one fender bender on the Schuylkill Expressway with the wrong jury waiting could end a 30-truck family business that survived everything else the road threw at it. The drivers themselves will tell you Philly's tight colonial streets and the racetrack merges on Interstate 76 are challenge enough. The verdict, so to speak, is that in Philadelphia the most expensive collision is the one that happens 2 years later in a courtroom, and the next city combines the lawyers, the traffic, and the thieves all in one place. Number 4. Chicago, Illinois. Chicago is the rail capital of North America. Nearly every major railroad on the continent meets there, and roughly a quarter of all the freight trains on the continent pass through the city. That made Chicago rich, and in the last few years it made Chicago a hunting ground. Organized crews now work the intermodal yards and the industrial suburbs where drivers lay over between loads, breaking into trailer after trailer parked in unsecured lots in places like Bedford Park and Joliet. One major intermodal carrier testified before the United States Senate that its cargo theft incidents exploded from 5 in a single year to nearly 900 just 3 years later. Read that again. 5 to nearly 900. Drivers feel it on the ground. Loads of electronics and even loads of food get hit, because a trailer of steaks is untraceable by the weekend. Layer on the tolls stacked across the Illinois tollway system, winter weather that can shut down the Dan Ryan Expressway, and a Cook County jury pool that plaintiff lawyers love almost as much as Philadelphia's. And the driver's rule for Chicago has become simple. Never drop a loaded trailer anywhere in the metro and walk away from it. Live loads only. Stay with the freight, and shut down for the night in Indiana or Wisconsin, not in Illinois. The freight still has to move through Chicago. The drivers just refuse to let it sit there. Which brings us to a city where the freight does not even have to sit still to disappear. Number 3. Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis sits at the crossroads of American shipping. The busiest cargo airport in America, 5 major highways, the Mississippi River, and distribution warehouses stretching to the horizon in every direction. All of that freight passing through one metro area created something else too. Some of the most organized cargo theft crews in the country. Industry trackers logged somewhere between 70 and 130 theft incidents around Memphis in 2025 alone, with crews targeting staged trailers, parcel freight, and electronics. But the numbers only tell half of it. The other half is what drivers say to each other. Overnight parking around Memphis has a reputation now that spreads driver to driver at every fuel counter between Little Rock and Nashville. Keep moving if you can. If you have to stop, pay for a secured lot with cameras and a fence, and consider the $15 or $20 the cheapest insurance you will ever buy. Drivers tell stories of thieves following high-value loads out of the warehouse districts, waiting for the truck to park, and cutting the trailer open while the driver sleeps 10 feet away in the bunk. Some carriers now flatly prohibit their drivers from taking their 10-hour break anywhere in the Memphis metro with a loaded trailer. The rates into Memphis have crept up in response because brokers have learned that the words Memphis and overnight in the same load posting will sit unclaimed on the board for hours. Remember that $900 Memphis load from the top of this video, the one our driver in Oklahoma scrolled right past? Now you know exactly why it was still sitting there. And still, Memphis is only number 3, because one region of the country outsteals everywhere else combined. Number 2. Los Angeles and the Inland Empire, California. If cargo theft in America has a home address, it is the corridor running from the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach out through the warehouse ocean of San Bernardino and Riverside. Industry trackers logged roughly 200 to 300 cargo thefts in that corridor in 2025, about a third of every recorded incident in the entire country, with crews hitting everything from electronics and designer goods to plain copper wire. The thieves range from smash-and-grab opportunists with bolt cutters to organized rings running the same fraudulent pickup schemes as Dallas, and the warehouses are so thick on the ground that a stolen trailer can vanish into legitimate-looking traffic in 90 seconds. But theft is only half the reason drivers cross Southern California off the map, because the state of California has been squeezing from the other side. Emissions rules have progressively banned older diesel trucks from the ports and from the state's drayage registry, which means an owner-operator with a paid-off 2006 Peterbilt, a truck with 1 million good miles left in it, is legally locked out of the best-paying container freight in America unless he takes on a payment for a newer truck that can cost more than his house did. Thousands of small operators looked at that math, looked at the theft maps, and simply stopped coming. They take loads to Phoenix and Las Vegas and let somebody else fight for the port money. The freight capital of America is bleeding the very drivers it runs on. And yet the city those same drivers refuse most is not in California at all. Number 1. New York City. For as long as anyone can remember, there has been one line a driver could say at any fuel island in America and get a nod of pure respect. I don't do the 5 boroughs. New York was always the hardest freight in the country. And in 2026, the city put a price tag on every single reason why. Start with congestion pricing. A big multi-axle truck entering Manhattan below 60th Street pays $21.60 at peak hours. And unlike cars, trucks are charged for every separate entry, so a delivery truck making 4 trips into the zone pays 4 times. Cross the George Washington Bridge and the tolls on a 5-axle rig run north of $100 before the day even starts. Then comes parking, which is to say, there is none. Legal truck parking in the 5 boroughs is effectively zero, so drivers double park to unload and collect tickets running from $115 to over $500, tickets that big fleets literally budget for as a line item, the way other businesses budget for electricity. Miss one turn, and the GPS can feed a 70-foot rig onto a parkway built in the 1930s, where a low stone bridge peels the roof off a trailer like a can opener. Every year it happens to somebody. Freight into New York pays some of the highest rates in the nation, and the small crew of specialists who know every dock, every bridge height, and every loading window earn every dime of it. The rest of America's 3.5 million truck drivers look at that money, do the arithmetic this whole list runs on, and keep scrolling. Look across all 10 of these cities, and one pattern runs through everything. Nobody organized a boycott. There was no vote and no union meeting. There were just millions of individual drivers, each one doing the same quiet math at a fuel counter at 2 in the morning, weighing the rate against the risk and deciding the load was not worth the trouble. That is judgment, plain and simple. The same judgment earned 1 mile at a time that we talked about in our video on banned trucking hacks. And the market is listening, because every refused load pushes the rate to these cities a little higher until the pay finally matches the pain, or until the cities fix the theft, the parking, and the courts and win their freight back cheap. The drivers are just keeping score, and the score gets posted on the load board every morning for anyone who cares to read it. If you rode shotgun for this one, subscribe for more from the world of trucking and the American highway. And if you want to know the tricks the drivers who still run these cities use to survive them, watch our video on the 10 banned trucking hacks old drivers swear by next. Keep the shiny side up, lock your trailer, and we will see you down the road.